Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our show, Progressively Yours Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, J. Bernard Kynes Sr., and we have such a wonderful program for you tonight. Our special guest is the one and only Dr. Imani Ma'at, the co-host, partner, fiance, and wife-to-be. We look forward to having this interview and conversation with her so that you will know more about who she is, as she is doing some very, very important work in our community, especially for our youth. But before we get to her, we're going to begin our show, which is part of our tradition and our ritual, with our spiritual meditation. But we again are so happy that you're here. So as we begin our spiritual meditation, it is a way that we get centered. We pay homage to our ancestors. We do not worship our ancestors. And we give thanks to the Creator for giving us breath, life, health, and strength to be able to be with you and offer you information that is of help for your life as well as ours. So I'd like for you to close your eyes for a moment, wherever you are, if that's possible, if you wish to participate. I would ring the ting shawls. The ting shawls are used for spiritual meditation. And when you hear the vibration, notice any feelings that you have in your body. And pay attention as the frequencies from the ting shawls will connect with you, with your vibrations, to help you become centered. So join me, if you will, and I will read from you from Dr. Wayne's Dyer, The Living, the Wisdom of the Tao. So if you close your eyes with me, I'll keep my eyes open. Sit comfortably in 3 breaths, in and out through your nose. We give thanks to the Creator, and we pay homage and thanks for the ancestors for being in our presence and blessing each of you and your home as we begin our show tonight. And may the spirit of each empower you to move deeper and more inwardly in your daily living. And as we prepare to move through this show, may your hearts be open to receive what is intended for you. These words from the 13th verse, they are as follows. I see myself as everything. I love myself as everyone. Title again. I see myself as everything. I love myself as everyone. Favor and disgrace seem alarming. High status greatly afflicts your person. Why are favor and disgrace alarming? Seeking favor is degrading. Alarming when it is gotten. Alarming when it is lost. Why does high status greatly afflict your person? The reason we have a lot of trouble is that we have sales. If we had no sales, what trouble would we have? Humanity's true self is eternal. Yet he thinks, I am this body and will soon die. If we have no body, what calamities can we have? One who sees himself or herself as everything is fit to be guardian of the world. One who loves himself or herself as everyone is fit to be teacher of the world. Words from the wisdom of the Tao, Ashe, and Namaste. So we are grateful, and as we coming together, there's a video that we wish to share with you. We're going to share 3 minutes of this video, and our producer will share the link because we want to encourage you to watch it. It's a testimonial of healing and wellness. So, Janet, would you run the video for us, please?
Well, first of all, that I have not been paid to be here. I'm here because my heart runs over with joy because I met Dr. Kubius. I don't know if there's any harsher words in the English language than to have a doctor come before you and say, you've got stage 4 liver cancer. It's a death sentence. So I asked him, how long do I have to live? And he said, no more than 6 months. No. I should have died last Valentine's Day, but here I am. And I got to tell you, I don't know whether I was angry or if I was just feeling sorry for myself. I don't know what I was feeling when the doctor told me that. One thing I know is that when I was told that, I knew I had a choice to make because he immediately began to sell me on the idea of chemotherapy. So I did a lot of research, and it's pretty amazing when you're told you have this death sentence and you begin to share it with family and friends and your colleagues and so forth. It's amazing how many cures come out of the woodwork. Everybody's got a cure. And yet, when you look and you study and you begin to compare all the information that's out there, you begin to realize that there's a lot of bullshit. One thing I recognized pretty quick was that the professional, they call them an oncologist because they specialize in cancer, they really don't have your best interest in mind. They look at you like they're concerned. They talk to you like they're concerned. The bottom line is they want to pump poison into you and keep you alive so they can keep pumping poison into you. You know, Lord, what do I do? If it's my time, I'm ready. But I don't feel like it's my time, but what do I do? The doctor told me I have 6 months. And my purpose on this life isn't through yet. What do I do? I was kind of bold that night. I told God, I didn't ask him, I told God that I wanted 50 more years of life. So anyway, after the prayer, I got to thinking to myself, what the hell did you...
Thank you, Janet. We will have the link to that video. The testimony that he shares about his healing is pretty amazing. And we just invite you to check it out. And when Imani comes on, she will have further comments what he is sharing. So, without further ado, I want to introduce our featured guest tonight. I'm very honored and very proud and very excited to introduce her. We have a couple of canines that you might hear in the background. One is playing with the toy, one is in her crate, and they're a little antsy, but we'll make it through it. Dr. Imani Ma'at is an acclaimed author, award-winning health educator, wellness consultant, and international health and wellness keynote speaker with his 22 years for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, as a health scientist. Her goal is to enhance the wellness of millions of people worldwide. Dr. Imani launched Healthy Haiku Productions, HHP, in 2006. Workshops blended in what she loved for public health, personal wellness, and poetry. Participants learn powerful tools and processes that lead to positive choices and healthy lives. Her educational strategies aim to remove barriers and enhance success. Dr. Imani's last book in the Healthy Haiku series is Healthy Haiku 3, How to Fight Childhood Obesity, One Poem at a Time. It is available on Amazon. The current project and the book that she's writing is due to be released later this year, is Educating the Incarcerated, Facilitating Opportunities for Growth and Understanding. Most recently, she established the Sankofa Institute for Wellness, LLC, in 2022 with her partner, yours truly. This organization offers group wellness workshops for corporations, community organizations, inclusive of the Healthy Haiku Workshops and other wellness education components, and offers Progressively Yours Health and Wellness Podcast. Dr. Ma'at, or Imani, has earned advanced degrees from Mount Holyoke, did I get that right? Yes. College, the MIT, the Harvard University Graduate School of Education, and Columbia University Teachers College. So, without further ado, it is an honor for me to introduce and present Dr. Imani Ma'at, who will join us now and slide in. Where we usually have guests in the background, we bring them up. We decided, all right, the background will be on the side. And so, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you, my dear. This was an idea because our show is gaining in popularity, and I think our very first show, gosh, just about a year ago, we did kind of a brief overview of who we are and the work that we do in the community and with folks. And I thought that it might be nice to kind of revisit that, just so that people get a sense of who we are as we introduce other people, wellness experts and other people working in the communities, that it's good to give them a sense of who we are as well. And I was doing one of my workshops last weekend at a youth program that I'm on their board, but I've also decided to teach my workshop there. And we were having such a good discussion. It was so rich. And one of the little girls looked up and she said, "You know so much." And I was like, wow, maybe I do. but I'm here because I want you all to know everything that I know. So anyway, Healthy Haiku is important to me, and I thought that it would be worth sharing the work that I'm doing now with our audience.
Did you want to make a comment about the video?
Oh, I just wanted to, I mean, he said some pretty strong things, and I want you all to know that the opinions and views expressed on that video are not necessarily the opinions and views of ourselves or our producers, but we did want to share, we're always trying to share things that are related to natural health and wellness, and I've heard some pretty amazing testimonials about that particular product or series of products. So I wanted folks to know about it. People are always asking, what can we do in addition to, in addition to meeting with our docs and doing the allopathic route to health and wellness. So, we're committed to bringing options to people. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, one of our viewers, who happens to be your beloved sister, has a wonderful comment I think we should share, because she is a cancer survivor, breast cancer survivor, and I like what Arlene has shared with the audience. No, they do not.
And I think that was in reaction to they don't necessarily have your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, a lot of people have experienced that in different ways. She said, no, they do not. Their main goal, first and foremost, is to instill fear in you. And fear, we know that fear reduces your natural body's ability, the immune system, and ability to heal itself and do what it needs to do. So, we don't want people to be fearful when they get a diagnosis. We want them to know that they have options. There are a lot of options, and unfortunately, some people are afraid to look at all of the options that are there. So I was excited by it. This was brought to me today, so we're still looking into this. But if people are interested in getting more information about those particular products, you can email me or at which Dr. Imani at Sankofa Institute.info, INFO. I may have that on this, and we can put a banner on later. Or the Gmail account, either one, Imani Ma'at at gmail.com. And the phone number is 757-452-0856. So if you are interested in getting more information about that video, I think we had the link, but YouTube links are long and whatever, so kind of convoluted. But I think see another comment from Pauline, which I didn't. Okay, but anyway, we let's move on. If people want more information, you can reach out to me. And like I said, we're learning about those products and that system, and it looks very encouraging, especially by that first testimonial that we're reading. So let's move on and talk about Healthy Haiku. Yeah,
let's do that. This is a very exciting text, and you will see pictures of the book momentarily. And so why don't we have the conversation, because this is about you, right?
Okay.
And the book is you, and you are the book. So before we get to the book, why don't you tell the audience about who you are? The question that I like to ask all of our guests is, tell us whatever comes to mind about your life when you think of the first 12 years of your story.
So it's funny, last week we had Dr. Bev, who did a whole piece on AI, and I'll talk a little bit about how I'm integrating some of that into my work. But Dr. Bev started off by saying, well, I was the second of 5 children. And I'm like, oh, okay, we have that in common. I'm the second of 5 children, grew up in New Rochelle, New York. And I was an avid reader, still am. I think I Google things more and look things up more online than actually, but I'm always reading 2 or 3 books at the same time. But I've always liked reading. And I was just the other day going through a little green, I call it the little green book of congratulations and encouragement of kids as we were graduating from elementary school. So there were comments from the students and the teachers and the other professionals who work with us. And I saw one from Miss Davis, who was our librarian. And Miss Davis knew that I was an avid reader, and she knew that I liked reading about about Black folks. So every time I went to the library, she said, hey, try this book, read this one, so I was way ahead of a lot of the children my age, just because I liked reading about our history and even the creative work. I don't want to start calling names because I'll forget some and mess them up, but Langston Hughes was definitely one of my favorite, and so many writers and poets who I just loved. A lot of times in the summer, I would just sit on the front steps, getting away from all the other kids, reading reading books and writing. I like writing also, and I like writing poetry as well. And I first learned about haiku poetry at Mayflower Elementary School. I thought everybody had to learn that when they were younger, and I realized later that a lot of people had never heard of it. So haiku is an ancient form of Japanese poetry from the 17th century that uses just 17 syllables, there's that 17 again, to tell a big story with just a few words. And it's usually set up as 3 lines with 5 syllables on the first line, 7 syllables on the second line, and 5 syllables on the third line. And so also because it's so short, it's very easy to teach even the youngest of children. So that's one of the things that drew me to it. And I was, fast forward, I learned haiku back in elementary school. And I took a teacher training course, a Montessori teacher training course in Harlem, New York, which was amazing. And somebody introduced haiku again as a way to teach children all different topics. And being a public health person, I've trained at, well, you read where I was trained, but worked at CDC for 22 years, taught at Morehouse School of Medicine for about 5 years in the Master of Public Health program. One of my concerns was, how do we, and this is a big part of my story, how do we reach the folks downstream? And what I mean by that is that we're working with, at CDC, we're researchers, we're working with communities, mostly, well, there is a program for adolescent and school health there now, but for the most part, we're focusing on adults, so we're looking at statistics of diabetes and high blood pressure. And I was the director of a major health disparities program there called REACH 2010, Racial and Ethnic Approaches to Community Health. And it was actually, I think it was during that time that I really started exploring working with youth. And again, I talked about upstream, downstream. So upstream, you've got the adults, who have become obese and ill and, all the other things that were overrepresented in the statistics. And then, so downstream are the youth who are heading that way in terms of being at risk because, habits, a lot of our health outcomes have to do with family habits. We eat the same way, we exercise or don't exercise. We're working with what we're working with. And a lot of schools don't even have gym as a regular part of the curriculum. I remember we had gym every day. So we were always moving and staying healthy. So anyway, that's I was real concerned with working with the children before they get sick and obese and have chronic diseases that in many cases we know now can be prevented by our lifestyle choices. So that's why, and I've always loved poetry. So I put together, at first I actually started with a good friend of mine, a teen theater program, where we were basically training the young folks to be peer educators through acting. And so the name of it was Yes for Health. And we had our signature play was on diabetes. And it was phenomenal. That was one. We did one on safe sex and reducing, delaying sex and HIV and, a number of things in that. But I found, because I was working at CDC and teaching in Morehouse School of Medicine, that the teen theater program, as much as I loved it, was very labor intensive. That really could have been a full-time job had I figured out how to do that back then. I think I'm a little more creative now. But in any case, that's when I sort of morphed from doing the full-blown productions to teaching about health and wellness using the poetry and doing it at schools and at churches and at youth groups. And I could just kind of drop in and do the workshop and be gone, except for the one that I'm connected with, and they've got me for a long time. So that's a little bit, that's probably more background than you needed.
Well, the audience is interested in everything that you have to say about yourself. So that's right on time and right on point. I'm interested also in knowing when you look back still over your earlier life, who inspired you to even have a vision toward wanting to be of help to children in particular, and African Americans, children altogether in particular, yes.
I think I know that my parents had played a big role in terms of me wanting to serve the community. My dad worked for the New York City Housing Authority and worked his way up from being a part of the maintenance crew to being one of the district superintendents. You know, they had limousines come and pick him up for meetings by the time he was finishing his career there. But he was very committed to working with people in the community, making sure that their housing needs, as well as everything that comes with public housing, that those needs were met. So it was that, and my mom was also a nurse, and she cared primarily for the elderly. She worked at a place for a long time in Yonkers, New York. But the two of them were very caring, very giving, and very encouraging in terms of me getting to where I was comfortable serving the community and doing work that was meaningful to our communities. So, and then of course, we were watching TV and learning about Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and so many leaders and writers and thinkers during that time. So I was definitely influenced by all of that, the civil rights movement, I'm Black and I'm proud, but by the time I started wearing an afro, most people had started straightening their hair again. And I was just surprised because I thought we were Black and we were proud. But I'm the type that I'll wait and kind of look at something and see where it makes sense. And I went to I was in a debutante ball, and one of the minister who was there, I was like a sub-deb, which this may mean nothing to some of our audience, but back then it was kind of like the coming out for young girls who were like 16. They were being presented to the community. So I was a sub-debutante. I wasn't in the first line. I was like in the second line. But anyway, I remember one of the girls who was a debutante, she had an afro. And I thought it was so cool. At the time, my hair was still mostly natural, but, sometimes straightened a little bit with a hot comb. But anyway, this minister bawled out this young lady and said, you can't wear that nappy hair to our event. You have to make sure you do something about it. And I was so shocked. I was like, her hair was so beautiful. And, he was so rude to her in front of everybody. And I think it was that day I said, I'm getting an afro.
Wow.
So, but I always wanted to serve our community in a way that made sense. And of course, I've done these workshops now for all different races and ethnicities and religions. But my heart is with the community. The last formal time that I used this was at the DeKalb County Jail here in DeKalb County in Decatur. And I found that I did mostly haiku. I included some other things on forgiveness and, other lessons that I thought, but I always had them writing haiku poetry about whatever our topic was about. But I found that one of the missing ingredients for so many young people is having a mentor that really cares about them. And, I had folks, some of the detainees or, inmates say to me, if I had you as a third grade teacher, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't be here.
Wow.
And that just really touched me,
That
and
had to be affirming to you.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I was even more, I've written a book about that experience, and because of lots of things that have happened in my life over the past few years, the passing of both of my parents and all of that entailed in terms of, being a caregiver and support for them, have delayed that particular book. I got to blame it on something. But that book is
it
coming.
Will happen. It's on the way.
That book is coming out soon. But in the meantime, this particular book has so many jewels in it. The one on childhood obesity. And
so let me ask, what is Healthy Haiku, the method, and tell us about its origin?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about the origin, coming from the teen theater program and my love for poetry. I've been writing poetry and just putting my poems in a folder and stashing them away or putting them under a pillow. And haiku, learning about haiku, especially as an adult, gave me a reason to bring those poems forth and to use them in my work in terms of educating. It's a real fun, dynamic session where kind of strategically, and I'm not going to give away the exact method because I'm going to be training, and I've got an ebook that's coming to help people to work with the book. But I wanted something that was fun and also empowered the students to feel like they were the teachers. They were the ones who were coming up with this brilliant work. So what I've created is a guide, a method to use haiku to teach and to empower at the same time, to empower young people. And like this past weekend, I was supposed to have a healthy haiku session with middle school and high school kids, young folks. And there was one young lady who, I think she was in 5th grade. She said, I'm not in middle school, but I really want to come into your class. So she came, and she was one of the stars of the group. And one of the young ladies said, she looked at her watch. She said, why do we have to end so fast? Because it was slated for 1 hour. And I'm like, well, it doesn't have to end in 1 hour. I can go a little bit longer. We stayed for about 2 hours. And they did some amazing, amazing work.
Well, I was familiar not only with you working with the youth at Maurice's Center, but in observation and working with you in a few settings with a non-for-profit organization here in Atlanta, and watching adults become like children as you presented the model and taught them about doing the poems. How have you watched it transform even adults who, go back to that inner child and help them to appreciate who they are, especially the part when we did the forgiveness. Say more about that integration.
Well, one of the things that, and you asked a lot in that one question, one of the places it took me was one of my first trip to Africa many years ago. I went to Nigeria. I was just coming out of graduate school the first time. And I remember it was a small group of us, and we were talking to some people who were there. And one of them asked, so what is your gift? What do you do? What is your art? And all of us, we were students, and, we knew where we were going in terms of academia and possibly careers. But the question was specific about what is your art? What do you do? What is your contribution? And it's amazing how one question can really change the trajectory of your life, because I realized my gift is poetry. And I would write poetry when for different reasons. One was, something that really excited me, or something that baffled me, or something that I didn't understand, something that didn't make sense. I wrote some of my best poetry when I was in South Africa. It was right before Nelson Mandela was elected, and apartheid was, officially over. And there were a lot of, you could cut through the air with a knife, just because there was so much tension at that time. It was a good time and not a good time to be there. But I found myself, we always rode around the bus wherever we went. I found myself sitting on the bus, just writing poetry about things that I was seeing, things that didn't make sense, things that were painful to me. So when I started the Healthy Haiku series, a lot of those old poems I pulled out and put in my books, just as an addition to. And one of the things I do when I do the poetry workshops is that I give them a new technique, if you will, the haiku. But I tell young folks, I'm like, okay, you've learned the haiku, but give it to me the way you want to give it to me. If it's hip hop or rap or something that is more authentic for them and for their spirits and for their world, I would let them do it any way that made sense for them.
Yeah, I noticed in the text you have in one of the chapters, haiku, hip hop, and spoken word. Yeah. Can you say something about that?
Well, again, I wanted to make sure that it touched everyone and that nobody felt left out.
Yes.
When I did a workshop once it was like a after school detention program, I guess, for teenagers who had gotten in trouble. They weren't incarcerated, but they were remanded to this program. And a lot of times we're sitting in a circle at the beginning and just talking. And this young man came in, and he was standing by the door. He didn't want to come in the circle. And I invited him to come and sit with us in the circle and work with us. And he kind of did it reluctantly because he didn't really have a choice. The people who were running the program insisted that he come and participate. And as that was one where I really wanted them to choose the topic that we were going to talk about. And before I knew it, we were talking about violence. We were talking about things that were going on in the community that were certainly around health and wellness, but it was what was on their hearts. And this young man who didn't want to join us, he emerged as one of the leaders in that. Full stop. He emerged as one of the leaders in the workshop because he had so much to say and so much to share. And I remember at the end, he asked me, he said, "Are you coming back?" He said, this was one of the best sessions ever. And, I was really inspired.
Okay.
I was really inspired by the feedback from him and from other folks. I guess when I was working at the jail, that was another time where I felt that people just needed a way to express themselves. So this is a way to express yourself, to learn, to get new strategies, and to build self-esteem.
Well, I want to add, in addition to learning, something I want to talk about near the end that I hear involved in that was just the art and the act of compassion that you were sharing with them from your heart to help them find ways to transform their own lives. Did you see that? Were you aware of this?
Absolutely. Well, at the jail, I was doing my Healthy Haiku workshops, but then I ended up becoming the director of that program. So I had a whole staff of people like myself, who were introducing different topics. Some of it was holistic health, some of it was science, some of it was art. We had a sister who taught history, but she taught it using music and a number of things that were really encouraging to them. So, I found that it was all about building up, and in a place where, the primary people there their responsibility is not necessarily rehabilitation, not in a jail. They're just kind of holding them, And so, myself and my crew, we're there with kind of mind liberation theology. Like, we want to free your mind so that your behind can follow. Last poets. But we wanted to teach them to think outside the box and to actually get rid of the box. I always did meditation in the beginning of each session that I did. But it was all about opening up doors for them so that they weren't stuck. I remember this one young man, he was saying something to me, and he says, well, the last time I was here, no, the time before that, when I was here, and I was like, how many times have you been here? You want to keep coming here? It's like, what is that about? And so we wanted to just open up the world to them in a way that they had not been exposed to.
Well, the beauty of that, and when you used one of my keywords, theology, I know one book that you and I both read that had to be an inspiration to you was Paulo Freire.
Sure. Paulo Freire
yes.
was, he was all about
pedagogy of the
oppressed.
Yes.
Had to do with teaching people where they are and using what's familiar to them as a way to connect them with the rest of the world. And so the empowerment came in everything being familiar to them when you start from a place of comfort. And so, I've definitely been inspired by Paulo Freire and his work. But,
well, that was in part this healthy haiku and what you would, and the poetry that you were teaching in the jail system was an element of helping transform and the liberation of their hearts and minds with compassion at the same time. Because I mean, just the image of in the jail and a program that can help them see themselves more for who they really are.
Right. There was one young man, I was so proud of him. He and this is not supposed to be about that book, but this is the most recent project. And I would always encourage them to, when they were presenting their poetry or their prose or whatever it is they created in a class, I would encourage them to stand straight, to speak clearly, and to see themselves talking to an audience full of high school kids so that you can share with them some lessons from your life so that they don't have to repeat. We learn by our own experiences as well as by the experiences of other people. So I said, if you can, think about yourself passing on the lessons that you're learning here. And one of the young men in my class, it almost brought me to tears. He actually did that. In fact, Spencer went with him to a local high school and he spoke to an auditorium full of young people. And I was like, mission accomplished. It's like if you touch one person, and then that becomes a wave. That person can touch so many other people with similar hearts, just to make sure that we get the most out of life. So many people are just living at base level, like the guy we see at the same red light every day begging for money. And he's gotten now so that he you give him $1 or $2, he said, you got some more? I'm like, wow. It's like, when did this become a way of life, begging? And not to, criticize it, because I don't know his life or the shoes he walked in or the road that he's had to walk on. but you just want to touch as many lives as possible like that, so that we have less people in the streets begging, and not thinking about all of their options.
And what I hear from you is reaching them early,
Yes.
as early as we can,
Yes.
and in a holistic way. So talk about Healthy Haiku and diet.
Okay. Well, this is a big part of what this particular book, Healthy Haiku 3, How to Fight Childhood Obesity, one poem at a time. This was really, again, like I said, I was had worked at CDC, had worked in health disparities, and you hear statistics all the time. 1 out of 3 adults is obese. I mean, that's a national statistic, and when you look up the statistics for children, they're pretty much neck and neck. When you see obese parents, the children are usually obese too, or overweight. And it's because they're eating the same thing. People always want to say, well, it's genetics. A lot of it is environmental and learned behavior, so I realized a long time ago that in teaching these workshops, I could just focus on children, but the parents are the ones who go food shopping. The parents really need these lessons as well. So that's when I started working with women's. I work with the Center for Black Women's Wellness here in Atlanta, and a couple of other programs. That one was definitely one of my favorite. And then working at the jail, I had mostly young people. Many of them were parents, even though they were young. But I realized that so much in terms of chronic diseases is a result of poor dietary choices. We know that there's all types of reasons why, economics, being in a food desert where there are no good health food stores or regular food stores, and people are, dealing with little side stores, bodegas, whatever, as opposed to really having, the Whole Foods, the Sprouts, the, places that have we have a huge farmers market here in DeKalb County that I love, because we get fresh produce from all over the world. So my reason for writing this was to be able to give a tool to parents, teachers, mentors to work with young people so that they could cover these issues. Let me look at the book. And throughout the book, we've got the science of what the statistics that I mentioned about obesity and chronic diseases, and the things that occur because of obesity or in conjunction with, like diabetes, like high blood pressure. And we also have the poetry. We have a notes to myself section where you can kind of write your own poetry or take some notes. There's a to-do list, ways to follow up with the things that you're reading. So here's an example of some. And again, haiku is very, very quick. It's only 17 syllables. Here's one about vegetables. She loves broccoli. He loves cucumbers better. Greens inside are great. Short, but it creates a picture, and that's what haiku originally included, information about the weather, the time of year, and because of literary license, I said, I don't have time for all of that. But in exchange for that, you get the colors, you get the images, you get the things that will stick with you. There was one poem, and I'm pretty sure my granddaughter and I wrote, and it's in the book somewhere. I won't find it, but it says, I love to eat pears in my little blue chair with my big brown teddy bear. So it's like all colors, and you'd see a child sitting there eating a pear in the rocking chair, and big teddy bear, because we had one of those huge teddy bears. It was like the size of a person, the kind people put in the car sometimes to make it look like there's another person there. So we had one of these big teddy bears, and we wrote this poem about eating a pear in the rocking chair with the big brown teddy bear. And so those images stay with the children, they stay with the parents, and it's fun. One of the things, and I won't give away the whole method, but one thing that's very important is brainstorming. about that particular issue. And so
The
we
issue
may of well, whatever health issue you're working on.
Yeah.
So this particular one is about nutrition and diet. Janet, I've got some pictures there, and they're from the ebook that I'm working on to go with this particular book. If you could pull up some of those pictures, that would be nice. And I actually we had Dr. Bev on last week, and she was telling us about the use of AI to write and to get pictures. Well, this is actually an AI generated picture, which is amazing. Because if you don't look closely, you're thinking that you're looking at real children.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a picture of children eating vegetables or fruits. There's another one. I think there's another one in that series. Yeah, this is even closer up. Looks like tomatoes. Maybe they're making a salad. And there's another one that shows them brainstorming, sitting around, talking about the issues, and with the board in the back. So we always brainstorm and then have a whole bunch of words to use to create the poetry. And that's the part where they really take control. So this is a copy of the book. One of the things I'm doing right now is I had ordered books for a workshop that I went to recently, and I have lots of extra ones. So I'm willing to let people get the book directly. You can get it from Amazon, but you can get it directly from me, and I will throw in the ebook, which is the kind of how-to guide for how to use what the Healthy Haiku method really is.
Okay.
I'm not giving that away. So, but it'll make it easier and more fun going through the book, having the ebook too. So if you can see on the board, there are different ways to reach me. I think it comes to like $23 with shipping and handling for the book and the ebook, which I'll have to send you once it's complete. But it's almost ready. So feel free. You can always reach out to me after the show and request a copy of the book, and we'll make it happen for you. So.
Very good. So what's the future for Healthy Haiku? What's your vision?
Well, because of Dr. Bev and the work that I'm doing with her on AI, I realized that I need to, my first book, let me just show you this. My first book, Promoting Healthy Knowledge, Attitudes, and Behaviors Among Youth Using Haiku and Creative Expression. In this particular book, we cover a lot of different health issues. So it's nutrition, it's violence, it's obesity, it's mental health. There are a number of wellness issues in here. So what I'm working on is actually a series of ebooks that explain how to use the Healthy Haiku method with each of those topics. Mm-hmm. So the first one is on nutrition, because it goes kind of as a compendium to the Healthy Haiku 3 book, Fighting Childhood Obesity. But the others will come soon, and it's very easy to create those and get those out. And my vision is to have, and I'm also doing training on the method as well. My vision is to have people all over the country, all over the world, using this method and integrating it into the work that they're doing. I only ask that you give me, some credit for being the initiator of it. I do have some copyright whatever to protect me, but I'm more concerned with getting this method out to people, to communities, to children, to parents, to mentors, to teachers, so that we have another tool to educate our young folks in a way like Paulo Freire taught us.
Well, it is definitely needed. I was talking with educators and teachers in my practice, and one counselor was sharing with me about the diet in the public school cafeterias. Pizzas, chips, and all of the sugary items that do not help our children in terms of being able to focus and be attentive to learning. So,
Right.
so your vision and your program, like especially the work you're doing with Maurice, is very, very important, and we look forward to persons receiving this book, the ebook that teaches the method. And as we do workshops going forward, we can continue to even help adults.
Absolutely. I love working with adults with this program, because then you know that they're going to take it forward and work with their families, their children, you know, other people in their community. So it's kind of the ripple effect, and that's I like to see that happening. So I can't believe time is almost up.
Yeah, this is your heart passion, and you have lit up there's a light and a glow as you talk about this work. For me, this educational ministry that you have devoted your life to in so many areas. So, Janet, you wanted to share some of the comments that we have at this time before we come to an end?
Toya mentions the farmers market. Yes, to the farmers market. Got to get back there. Yes, you do. We miss you being here. Let's see. What else? A couple of comments from Toya.
We'll read with my youngins.
Oh, good. Mama Toya. All right. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't see all of the comments that people make. Sometimes I end up going back to Facebook afterwards. So forgive us about that. It's a little hard to feel the questions and to pay attention in terms of stream of thought and all of that. But we appreciate you tuning in and watching and supporting us. We hope that encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube page, Progressively Yours Health and Wellness Podcast, to our Facebook page, same name, and on LinkedIn. It showed on LinkedIn. I don't know if there's a group there. We have to look at that and see if there's a group on LinkedIn. I just set up a Twitter for us, so that's another place that we'll be dropping some wisdom and sharing information about shows that are coming up. So this has been a journey. I'm excited about it, and I love sharing, and I think this is a good idea. Next week, we're going to hear more about your work with your clients and counseling and all that you do.
Yes, and I look forward to sharing my journey toward that as a vocation, which I did not see myself or envision that happening in a very conscious way. And one of the things I was going to share tonight, but I will bring both pieces next week, because I want to integrate into our show a theme from my practice during the week. And the first one that I want to share has to do with unconditional compassion. And I will share with you what this phrase came about, how its origin, how it found me back in 2014 when I returned from China and visited the Chinese Medical Center and Dr. Li. We're at time, and this has gone by pretty quickly. A lot of amazing information. We look forward to Imani's work and a vision being more fulfilled in the community. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your vision, your idea that we will have opportunity to present to the audience who we are. And I look forward to sharing next week. So thank you for.
Welcome.
You did well and great and outstanding.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And don't forget to contact me if you'd like a copy of the book. Like I said, I've got a number of these here. I can get them to you for a discount and get you the ebook, which will be done in just a couple of days.
Yes.
So thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. Ashe.
Ashe. Namaste.
Namaste.
And amen.
Amen.
All right. Take care.